This week on the Mainly Moonology podcast, we are talking about the full moon that is coming, which is very exciting. Even more exciting, especially if you happen to be Cancerian or even Capricorn or Aries or Libra. We have Jupiter, the planet of good luck, changing signs. And the one I'm most excited about is I'm going to be talking to a fellow astrologer, Alison Bolton, about the astrology charts and the compatibility of two of my favorite Hollywood celebrities. And if that makes you roll your eyes, that's fine. We're going to leave that to the end of the podcast. So if you're not interested, you can just listen to the info about next week's astrology. All right, so I am delighted to welcome to the show this week Alison Bolton, who is MADF Astral S. I mean, she has letters after her name. Alison is a professional astrologer, writer, and speaker. Her own astrology journey began in the 1980s, which she doesn't look old enough for that, I must say, after an intense consultation with Liz Green. And if you don't know Liz Green, she is one of the most renowned, foremost astrologers alive today on the planet. Inspired, Alison began reading Dr. Green's work, which led her to Jung and to psychological astrology, which she has explored extensively. She holds an advanced diploma from the Faculty of Astrological Studies and regularly contributes articles to Stella and the Astrological Journal, which is how I found Alison. Alison lives in France, near Arles. I found Alison because she wrote about, I can't remember who now, on in one of those astrology magazines. And I said to her, oh my goodness, I've been looking for astrologers who are curious about celebrity. And I will just say, Alison said something which actually really resonated with me. She said, I'm very interested in the charts of successful people because I like to see what made them successful. And that really resonated with me, both as an astrologer and as an ex-journalist, because when I was a journalist, I did a lot of celebrity interviews. And the reason why I really enjoyed doing celebrity interviews was because I wanted to know how these people became so successful. And it wasn't just celebrities. I shouldn't say celebrities. I liked interviewing anyone who was successful. So it could be, you know, the head of, I don't know, I mean, I'm thinking of an Australian company, the head of BHP, which is a big mining company, or, you know, the head of, I don't know, UNESCO, or the head of the Red Cross, or the head of, you know, whatever. I was always very interested in meeting those people and trying to slightly figure out what makes them tick. Yeah. And of course, with astrology, we can do that as well. So, yay, welcome to the show, Miss Alison Bolton.
Yay. Thank you. That's a lovely introduction. Thank you.
So, Alison, let's start by talking about the full moon this week. And I said I would lead this discussion because I've already written about it in my Moonology diary. And then I'm going to let you lead our conversation about Jupiter a bit more. So full moon in Sagittarius we have this week, happening on June the 11th, pretty much wherever you are in the world. Mm-hmm. And the key words I've put for this lunation are say something kind. Don't fight what is, decide to heal. And see the funny side. So full moons are always intense, and this one is probably going to be no exception because it's clashing with the karmic lunar nodes. The way to get ahead of any potentially aggravating energies is to be as kind as you can be, regardless of who you're dealing with, in a world that often feels tumultuous and overwhelming. And I feel like that's truer and truer every single day. A few well-placed kind words can go a very long way. This full moon takes place just ahead of a lovely Mercury-Venus alignment, so tune into the power of being thoughtful. That said, there are some quite challenging energies around right now. We all know that life can be predictable, and this full moon could bring around some situations where we just want to rail against it. As much as I strongly believe in the law of attraction and holding the vision of life as you want it to be, there are times when we also have to accept what is and move on from there. If you're in a situation right now that feels extremely stuck, open your eyes to it as this full moon unfolds and ask the universe to help show you the way. Since this full moon is taking place in the sign of Sagittarius, find your sense of humor if it's been lost lately. Also, you know, just try and be optimistic and just try and assume that the universe has your back and whatever's happening right now is happening for your highest good. I know that's easier said than done. I mean, obviously some situations are very hard to do that. But if you're dealing with something that you can possibly just go, you know what, everything is unfolding as it's meant to, and I just have to trust. Okay, that will help you navigate any challenges coming up. Note that the more you can release any pent-up dramas under the full moon, the less reactive you will be in the days that follow. Also note that the further out we get from this full moon, the stranger life could become. Sounds like Uranus is doing something there. Whatever you're going through now, decide that you want to heal, and the healing process will begin. It really can be that simple if you allow it. So tell me, Alison, are you into the moon? I know you're Piscean. Are you into the moon? Do you do full moon, new moon, or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're just turning points, aren't they? Every month, you know, the new moon, new cycles, that's fantastic. A new start. And then the full moon, that culmination. And as you just said in that description, you know, that the need to let something go always, and especially now when it's going to square those moon's nodes, and can be a turning point.
Yeah,
especially if you've got
indeed,
especially if you've got stuff around the sort of 20 degrees of immutable signs.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I just wanted to give people that sort of very broad brushstrokes of the full moon. Just know it's a full moon. It's a time to let go. It's a time to release. It's a time to forgive, especially I find really, really useful at the full moon, because all your emotions come up, and by forgiving what you can, just making peace with what is, to me, that's a really, really good thing to do. But let's really talk about the biggest headline news of this week. Well, actually, just before we get there, let's just preface it by talking about those aspects we discussed before we hit record, which is the fact we do have quite a lot of weird planetary activity happening in the first few days of the week. We've got Mercury clashing with Saturn, we've got Venus clashing with Pluto, and then we've got Mercury clashing with Neptune. So can we just say the week may start off a little bit strangely, correct? Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it could be a bit challenging. Yeah, need to be careful what you say. I mean, the Mercury-Saturn challenge, always difficult, especially sort of in the family sort of areas. You know, Mercury's that might be sort of falling out with family members, and the idea of forgiving, I think, you know, is really important.
Yeah, and I think also when I was reading from the diary and I said things are going to get weirder as the week unfolds, I actually think looking at this, I was looking at the Mercury square Neptune, because that can be quite confusing. It might just be a little bit of a confusing week, you know, and also for me, Mercury square Saturn, very much, you know, like just doing your own head in, letting the wheels of your mind drive you crazy, that sort of stuff. And, you know, Venus, Pluto, this is all actually on the 9th of June, you know, can be pain in the heart, you know, like not literally, hopefully, but, you know, just like, oh, that hurts, or it's hard, or obsession with someone, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, my general advice for this week would just be careful, because it does start off quite weird, and it is a full moon week, and the energies are going to build and build and build. But let's talk about the big headline of the year. Well, one of them, because it's actually a huge year this year. The big headline of the week, at the very least, which is Jupiter moving into the sign of Cancer. Now, Alison, you said you've actually been looking at this a little bit, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away. What can you tell us about Jupiter moving into Cancer? First of all, you know, generally, and then also let's drill down a bit on the signs.
Yeah, okay. So Jupiter likes it in Cancer. I mean, I think that's important to say to start with. You know, it's one of its signs, and you know, Jupiter is about expansion. It is known as kind of, you know, the greater benefic, but sometimes it doesn't always feel that benefic, but it expands what's already there. That's the point. And moving into Cancer, which is all about family, it's about tribe, it's about nurturing, really, motherhood, nurturing, all that kind of stuff, you know, that's going to then be a focus wherever that falls in your chart, really. So that's definitely a thing. And then it's going to retrograde back, so it's going to be in Cancer about a year. Can be good for finances too. I was watching a financial astrologer, by the way. So
oh, really? Who was that? Who was it?
Gosh, to be honest,
not Ray Merriman, the famous guy. I don't even know if he's still around, actually.
It might have been. It was at the beginning of the year anyway. He was talking about Jupiter in Cancer. I thought, right.
Right, yeah. I mean,
you have to have anything to.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to mean something different for everyone. One thing we can say, we did work it out just before we started here, that the last time Jupiter was in Cancer, did we say it was 2013?
Yeah, it would be 12 to around 12 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing you can do is, if you don't know your chart, you can at least think, what was expanding for me then? What was sort of opening up for me? What were the chances and even risks I was willing to take? Because there could be some kind of repetition. Now, if it was a terrible year for you in 2013, don't worry, because all the other planets have changed signs or positions, at least, since then. But it's very much thing. If you know where you have the sign of Cancer in your chart, then have a look, because that is where you are going to be getting this new energy. Jupiter is the planet of good luck, good fortune. It's the planet that exaggerates. It's the planet that goes over the top. But ultimately, Jupiter tends to be, as you said, the greater benefic and kind of on our side. And it is a nice thing for home and family, which, we need more and more of at this point in time. What do you reckon regarding, say, if we go through the signs, like the cardinal signs, so Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So they're going to be getting quite direct hits, aren't they?
Yeah, so if you're looking at Aries, I mean, you're looking at a challenge really from Jupiter and Cancer. So you might be challenged to expand in the area of family or your tribe, or to kind of grow something that's to do with that kind of close-knit community. It might be to do with nurturing. Maybe something you weren't actually sure that you wanted to nurture, because Aries can be quite, right, this is all about me, I'm going to go and do that. And now you're maybe challenged to do something that's a bit more inclusive and to join in. And
yeah.
But that in the long run, that could be very positive. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Jupiter, it's about meaning.
Yeah. Actually, let's just go in order. What about people who are Taurian? I mean, this is good for them because it's water and earth go together.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So for Taurus, yeah, so that's going to be a really nice connection for them. And maybe, they will find some sort of growth, because it's always going to be about growth through, always to do with the family, the tribe, depends where it falls in the chart a lot of the time, but yeah.
Okay, so what we can say with very broad brushstrokes is that the Jupiter into Cancer period is going to be particularly good if you happen to be a water sign or an earth sign, which is Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. And for everyone else, it's not bad. It's just not necessarily so supportive. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's, yeah, as you say, it's going to be making supportive kind of connections to all of those signs.
Yes.
Which is great. And that's going to be, and Jupiter, of course, about meaning, about where we find meaning in our lives, moving into Cancer. So it's going to be, supporting the search for meaning for those signs, I guess, too, through ideas of tribe, which can be friends. It doesn't have to be kind of blood family, the people that we think of as the family can be our football team.
Exactly. And I think it's also a really good time to think about what you want in your personal life and from your family, with your family. It's a really good time to really nurture your family, nurture your sense of where you belong.
Yeah.
And maybe also, if you don't already have one, creating a sacred space at home, because the sign of Cancer obviously rules the home and family. Perfect time to feng shui your place, or vastu your place if you work with those things. And also, I think, just be aware that this is actually going to be quite good for intuition, I think, because we're going to have, Jupiter, the planet of expansion in Cancer, which is a very watery, emotional, and intuitive sign. So maybe it's going to be quite good for that as well. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And great idea about sort of, nurturing the home and the kind of the roots and stuff. That's great. And about sort of trying to work out where you belong. But it's also super imaginative. I mean, Cancer, really fantastic imagination, and a lot of it's about dreams, and it's ruled by the moon, so it can fluctuate a bit as well. So you might feel a bit more emotional, moody this year, with everything kind of going through with Jupiter going through Cancer and the moon kind of behind that, sort of just changing all the time, and you're never quite sure how it's going to land.
Yeah. And, maybe it's a good time to, in terms of talking about your dreams, nurture your dreams, and maybe write, a love letter to your future about where you want to go. because, you know, maybe you'll intuit stuff, and once you start to intuit that stuff, you'll start to get a better idea of what you actually need to do in the here and now in order to get to where you want to go in your personal life or with your family and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and pay attention to the dreams that you have, you know, the stuff that sort of comes up when you're not really paying attention. You know, what was that sort of that just came into my head, floated in? Well, grab it and maybe make a note of it, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's creative, isn't it?
Yeah. So essentially, it's really a good time to think about how you want to expand. It's a good time to make sure you're not going over the top. But also, I think what's nice is that, you know, when a planet changes signs, we do feel it a bit more strongly, don't we? So, you know, it's nice to have the so-called lucky planet a little bit emphasized this week. So, you know, even though it's a kind of a weird week, it's kind of like, well, there could be some quite good vibes in the air. Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to Jupiter and Cancer. Absolutely.
And it's going to last about 12 months. So there we are. Okay. So look, I hope that gives you an idea of what's coming up this week. Just to recap, it is a slightly weird week. There are some slightly difficult energies around. Watch out for power struggles, especially to do with relationships or money, because of that Venus-Pluto square. You know, don't drive yourself crazy with your thoughts, because that Mercury clash with Saturn. And also, you know, if you're feeling very vague, maybe hold off on making any decisions, because that Mercury Neptune. Remember, we have this full moon happening, which is in the sign of Sagittarius, and it's a very good time to say something kind, you know, and also to kind of try and accept what is to an extent. So hopefully for anyone who just came here because they wanted to hear about the astrology for the week ahead, that gives you a really good idea of what's coming up. Now we are going to do what I really have been looking forward to, which is to talk to Alison about the charts of Timothée Chalamet, let's call him Timothée Chalamet, and Kylie Jenner. So let me know what you think, first of all, Alison. I assume you've had a look at their charts. I'll just tell people really quickly. Timothy is actually he's a Capricorn, but he's a quintuple Capricorn.
Yeah.
With Virgo rising and a Pisces moon, while Kylie is a Leo. No surprises there, but she only has one planet in Leo, which is her sun, which is a luminary, but we call it a planet. She's actually got 2 planets and a point in Virgo, which makes a lot of sense because she definitely has that sort of that feel about her, that she's a perfectionist. And then she's got Chiron and Mars in Libra, which also makes a lot of sense. And actually she's also got Jupiter and Uranus in Aquarius, which is quite interesting, not least because they're in her second house, and Jupiter and Aquarius in her second house. I mean, how much money has this woman made online? So there we go. So yeah, take it away. Give us some thoughts, Alison. I will just sit here and listen and nod.
Yeah, well, Timothée, I mean, to start with, yeah, that Virgo ascendant, you know, it's really skillful and discerning, and critical, you know, so he's going out into the world through that ascendant, you know, wanting to know how he can be skillful. It's very practical. It's not going to be wishy-washy at all. You know, he's going to be kind of sorting things out in his head and working out what's useful to him and what's not useful to him. But it's helpful too. You know, it's I really like Virgo actually. I think they're you know, they're a good sign to have around. And then at the same time, he's got this huge Capricorn kind of collection of planets down in the 5th house, which is all to do with just self-expression. And Capricorn is super hardworking, super focused, determined, all of those things. You know, this guy is ambitious. Definitely.
Well, he got up at the Golden Globes, didn't he, and said, "I'm aiming for greatness." Like,
I want to be one of the greats.
Nothing says I want to be one of the greats like a stellium in Capricorn.
Yeah, and I really feel that was actually, yeah, absolutely setting an intention. You know, he wasn't like, there was no questions there. This is my goal. This is where I'm going. And I mean, he's going to get there, isn't he? I think there's no question. He's already like halfway there now. But within that Capricorn stellium and ruling the chart, because, you know, it's the ruler of Mercury, so we call it the chart ruler, is a ruler of Virgo rather. So Mercury, the chart ruler, is that wonderful kind of Mercury-Neptune connection. So there's this super romantic twist to his chart as well. And this ability to just kind of feel his way into things that he gets through the Neptune. and just totally kind of dreamy, if you like, as well. So somehow he's got the Virgo, which is kind of discerning and likes to sort things out and put stuff into boxes. And then at the same time, there's this just amazing ability to morph into pretty much anything, which I think comes through that conjunction.
Yeah, I mean, Neptune is, I know that they didn't say this in the ancient times of, the roots of astrology, but I think it's pretty much accepted that in 2025, Neptune rules Hollywood. It's all smoke and mirrors. So the fact that he's got his Mercury, in fact, his Mars as well, conjunct Neptune makes a lot of sense. I mean, the negative could be he's not always honest. So we hope for Kylie's sake that's not how it pans out. But definitely, it's very good for acting. I mean, having Mercury conjunct Neptune in the 5th house, it's very, very good for acting. And as you say, morphing is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about this chart as well, though, is he's got that Venus in Aquarius. Now that's a kind of a bit of an outlier, if you like. It's kind of separate to the rest of the chart, and it kind of gives him a detachment. So I think it is quite useful because he's able to kind of get into these roles, and then he kind of detaches out of them, which, must be quite good for your sanity. But also it's very freedom loving, this Venus. So you kind of think it's about relationships, it's about your values. It rules the 2nd house too, so all about values and stuff. So how's that going to come over in a relationship? Initially, maybe it doesn't matter too much. Maybe there is still a lot of freedom there, but then you start to wonder, because Kylie's maybe not quite so free.
Yeah, because what I thought when I saw that Aquarius Venus was, I thought of those photos of them that we all saw quite recently at I think it was at a tennis match.
That's right.
And she was kind of all over him,
Yes.
and he was very much keeping his distance and sort of like, I love you, but back off a bit, please, because I'm trying to watch the match. I think it was quite humiliating for her. It was actually not just pictures, it was video of her sort of trying to kiss him and putting her hands on his face, and he's sort of like watching the match while kind of kissing her and that sort of stuff. But that is actually kind of his Venus in action, isn't it? It's like, come on, don't crowd me. I'm here. I'm watching sport, and I don't really want to have you in my face 24/7. So if you know someone with Venus in Aquarius, it can be a bit like that. Do we agree there, Alison? Don't have to.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, Venus in Aquarius does need space and will take space. So, she needs to factor that into the relationship, really. She needs to understand that that's where he's coming from. And it might not always be where she's coming from, because, I mean, she's got that Scorpio moon. Do you want to move on to her? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So she's got this Scorpio moon, and Scorpio can be pretty intense, and it does rule what we call, the area that's about relationships in her chart. So, I mean, that's, that sort of says something. She's going to want that closeness, definitely, and she'll take it as rejection, probably, if she doesn't get it. The sun there is pretty intense too, and a Leo sun, it's all about self-expression and about me. It's warm-hearted, it's golden, it's, it inspires people like fire signs do. But sometimes it can be a little bit fragile as well, a Leo sun. You have to keep feeding it. You have to keep feeding the fire. Yes, darling, I do love you, that kind of thing. And
yes, darling, you are gorgeous. I do worship the ground.
She is gorgeous. And I mean, that absolutely must have been part of it for him. I mean, they're both gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, but yes, she will need to keep being told that. And is he able to do that? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, it might be the relationship itself that is the attraction too, because that's also quite romantic. But she's got a Capricorn ascendant, so his sun is together with that Capricorn ascendant. So traditionally, in Jungian terms, that's a traditional kind of significator of a long and happy marriage. I mean, not everyone who's got those things is married long and happily, but obviously, but
what's the significator? So their sun conjunct your ascendant, or vice versa?
Yeah, so sun conjunct the ascendant or descendant, or moon conjunct ascendant or descendant. Those are generally pretty traditional, strong significators for long-term relationships. So So who knows?
Yes. I mean, one thing I'm thinking as well is that the fact that she's so busy, probably quite good actually, because it does mean a little bit that, you know, she can't be too clinging all the time. So before we look at their actual compatibility, now that we've had a little look at their chart, let's just for the sake of it, for fun, let's just talk about Jupiter, where Jupiter's moving, because it's particularly interesting. It's moving into Timothy's 11th house, which is great for, you know, dreams coming true and also more fun with your friends and all that. But for Kylie, it's actually moving into her love zone, which,
Yes.
when I first learned astrology, when I first was learning astrology, I was working as a journalist in a magazine that you might remember called Company Magazine. It was a magazine, a magazine in the UK. In Australia, the equivalent would have been probably something like Clio magazine. And we were doing a big feature on astrology with an astrologer called Lynn Birkbeck, and who wrote a book called Do It Yourself Astrology. And we were getting the, you know, serial rights or extract rights or whatever from that. So my job was to interview him, and I was already interested in astrology, so it was really up my street doing this piece. And then we started talking about we talked about when I was most likely to get married.
Okay.
And he said, oh, about 12 years from now. I'm like, oh, right. And I think I was already, you know, I don't know how old I was, but I felt like a long time away. And he said, no, because that's when Jupiter's going to move back into your 12th house. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And so I kept an eye on this thing for 12 years as my astrology information grew, as I studied astrology, basically.
Okay.
And of course, you know, the minute Jupiter moved back into my 7th house, is when I can't remember now exactly if I met my husband or married, but it was true. Like, and I had to wait 12 years for that. And it was quite extraordinary that he had made this prediction. So I've always thought, you know what, I'm going to go with that, because that definitely worked for me. Anyway, Kylie's about to have Jupiter moving into her 7th house.
Yeah, absolutely. She absolutely is. So I thought the same as you. I thought, wow, you know, I mean, it's gonna go backwards and forwards there. And I can't remember. I did look up to when it gets to the 9th of exactly goes into the seventh house. But yes. And I mean, you know, yes and maybe. So it goes into the 7th house. It's going to make lovely aspects to that moon in Scorpio as well. We talked about the water planets earlier, you know. And you kind of think, well, maybe why not?
Yes.
I
mean, that seems to be the train of thought. People seem to think they're gonna get married, don't they?
They do seem to think they're going to get married. And I mean, you know, he's just had his Saturn return, hasn't he? He's like 29 or something. So I mean, that is one of the things that happens on a Saturn return. You know, you become an adult, you're kind of like, I mean, people say, oh, you know, they're too young to settle down. You think, really? They're, you know, they're in their 20s. That seems reasonable to me.
I mean, she's already got multiple children, so she's definitely already an adult on some level.
She has.
And they both live so many lives already, you know, with what they've done.
Yeah, you do wonder with Kylie how much childhood she actually had, don't you? I think in that family
A little
and
bit,
all that stuff, coming up. So yeah, so but I think yes, I mean, why not? They've got lots of they've got a really lovely Mars-Venus connection actually. His Mars is there in that Capricorn Earth sign, and her Venus. All about beauty, of course, so very important in her chart, which is in Virgo, and you know, making that really great connection. So yeah, there's a lot of charisma there, I think, a lot of, you know, oomph. Wow.
Yeah. So I was having a look as well. So they've got applying aspects, because I like to look at applying aspects in compatibility. So let's have a look. They've got Neptune sextile Moon by the looks of it. Let me just pull up their charts together. Right. So here we have their charts together. Let's have a look. Oh yeah. So it's here. There's their Moon, Neptune. Okay, so so we've got her Neptune retrograde applying to his moon. Now that is actually quite romantic. It's quite an intuitive connection. We can assume they understand each other on a fairly intuitive basis.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is important for relationships, I think. It's also very nurturing, you know, Neptune to the moon, harmonious aspects, sextile, probably quite forgiving. So that's actually quite nice. That is quite nice. And don't they also have Venus trine Neptune? I made a note of. So that must be,
Venus trine Neptune.
yeah, her Venus trine his Neptune, which is also very romantic, very rose-colored glasses, isn't it?
It definitely is. I mean, I guess her Venus is trining all of that, you know, that little connection there, the Capricorn
Yeah,
sign, isn't
the
it?
whole lot of them actually, isn't it?
So,
I mean,
yeah,
it's closest to the
exactly.
Neptune, but it's also, yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think I think this relationship has legs. And you know what? They've already been together 2 years, you know. It's like they've kept it on the down low until now, but they've been together 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and why not? I mean, people say, oh, what do they find to talk about? You know, she must be such an airhead. Well, why is she such an airhead? She's got that Capricorn ascendant, you know, she's got some drive about her, I think.
Yeah. Not to mention she's managed to, you know, become a billionaire. And one thing I drew on from my days, I was talking before about being a journalist when I was interviewing celebrities, you know, like the ones who are really successful generally are not at all stupid. I remember interviewing Kylie Minogue back in the day, who's like a quadruple Gemini, and everyone was saying, oh, she must be such an airhead. It's like, no, she's not. She's smart. She's sharp as a tack. So, you know, yeah. Also interesting, actually, I've just noticed as well. So basically, his Venus is conjunct her Uranus.
Yes.
That's kind of intense.
Yeah, or maybe because his Venus is in Aquarius, I wondered if that was actually kind of a compatibility almost thing going on there.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure,
that's
for
her
sure. But
Uranus,
it's
you know.
quite, I
Maybe
mean,
she
it's
makes him
exciting.
feel free. Yeah, definitely exciting. Yeah, yeah. Maybe she makes him feel free. Maybe she makes him enables him to express himself somehow. But you know, I don't know. You don't.
Yeah, she maybe she can. Yeah. And the last one that I'd like to just mention here is for anyone who's got this with their partner, her Saturn is conjunct his South Node, which is often an indicator of past life connection. So I don't know if you work with past lives, being psychological, but
That's a double connection, actually. It works the other way too. Her Saturn is conjunct his South Node.
oh yes, so it is. You're right.
Yeah, it's a
So we've
really
got past life
strong.
karma going on here.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? Something like that. If that's your cup of tea, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't necessarily choose to make wild predictions about people, but I think they're a real couple and I think they've got legs. Let's see. Let's say that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It wouldn't, I mean, it could go either way. You know, Chalamet is getting various, that Uranus, but as it goes into Gemini across his midheavens, so he's going to be getting some changes coming up. Doesn't mean to say that they won't involve being married.
True.
Indeed, you know. So yeah, you don't know. I mean, there are always going to be challenges. We talked about the Aquarius Venus, you know, maybe her crowding a bit too much, but you know, every relationship has its challenges.
Yeah.
You know, how annoying are guys when they're watching sport? I mean, really.
Well, exactly. And also the other thing is all those fifth house planets explain why he's so obsessed with sport.
Yes.
Yeah. But looking at his chart, actually, he's actually just had Saturn go over his moon. So that's quite interesting. They seem to have survived that. And that's almost like when they went official.
Right.
It's almost like the Saturn in his seventh conjunct his moon was when they actually said, okay, this is for real. And he started trotting her out to all the red carpet events. But also he is going to have Pluto going over his Venus. So that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, he's got a while to wait for that though.
Yeah,
So
I was just going to say, how long is that? Let's have a quick look.
it's probably about 3 years.
Yeah. So it'll be, 2027.
Yeah.
So hopefully, yeah. Okay. So, okay. I mean, let's just say they've got good charts together. We can leave it at that.
I think they've got as good a chance as anyone else, to be honest. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. I would say even better than most people.
Yeah.
What do we reckon? Is that too much of a statement? I think
No,
they've got...
no, I think that Capricorn, you know, I think it's committed, isn't it? I mean, there is something committed about Capricorn and Venus, actually, for all that it wants its freedom, it's really loyal in a partnership. It's not flaky.
Yes. So we just have to make sure that her Uranus doesn't activate his Venus too much to the point that they just, you know.
Yeah.
it is like, that's probably, I would say, one of the most volatile things in their chart, and it could be a sudden schism.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Okay, Alison. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. I hope people enjoyed listening to it.
I really enjoyed
Tell
it.
us where people can find you and what you offer people who are like, oh, I'd love to have a reading with this wonderful person.
Okay, so I have a website which is alisonsastrology.net, so you can find me there and get in touch with me. And then I'm also on Instagram, Alison Astrologer, I think, and I'm on YouTube too, and I do little weekly updates, so you can find me on that as well, Alison Astrologer. So that'd be great.
All right, well, we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much for indulging me, because it's not easy to find people who are happy to talk about the charts of Timothée Chalamet and Kylie Jenner, who actually know what they're talking about as well. All right, so thank you for being here, and let's do more crazy Hollywood astrology again in the future one day.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Jasmine.